Happy Friday. Welcome to From the Nosebleeds. I'm Joey Gunnar here with Andrew Mason on the last Friday before Christmas. Mace, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling all right. End of the week, getting ready for another big Broncos game. It's like old times, Joey, that you go from one big Broncos game to another big Broncos game. It's the way it used to be around these parts, that you just sail on from one colossal matchup to the next.
Yeah.
It's fun around here, especially in December at the end of a season, at the holiday season. It's good to be around some meaningful football games, some meaningful football moments. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely not taking that for granted. Having something to look forward to still in December. Not only having something to look forward to, but having the biggest possibilities to look forward to. I mean, we're talking about the number one seed in the AFC. We're talking about the Super Bowl. That has not happened here in 10 years. This is going to be a huge game, another telling game. I think that last week we learned a lot about what this Broncos team can actually do up against the Packers. But this is a game where they're going to have to show it again up against this sneaky Jaguars team. And I want to ask you, I think I already know what the answer should be, but is this a game where the Broncos can look to dominate the Jaguars on all ends of the football field, or will it be another close game that comes down to the wire? I feel like it's probably going to be the latter.
I think it could come down to the wire, and I think it may even look quite a bit like last week's game, especially on the defensive side, because what you're looking at with the Jaguars is this is a team that can cause some of the same problems and ask a lot of the same questions of a Broncos defense that Green Bay did, because especially since Jacoby Myers came in last month, this is a team that trusts a multitude of targets, spreads the ball around, complements that with a running back in Travis Etienne, who's having a terrific season. He's already north of 1,200 yards from scrimmage so far this year. And something that has come up with Vance Joseph's defense over the last 2.5 seasons since it emerged back in October of 2023 is that the teams that have given it the most trouble have been the ones that have the greatest array of pass catching targets, the ones that really kind of force the Broncos kind of defend the whole field. Like, teams that don't have a great array and depth of targets, teams that maybe say, okay, we're going to stay away from Pat Surtain, they tend to have less success against the Broncos than the ones that can kind of spread it around and work the entire field. Jaguars can work the entire field. Trevor Lawrence, whoever the wide receiver one is basically whoever is open. Liam Cohen, the Jaguars' first-year head coach, is doing a great job scheming pass catchers open. So this could be a problematic matchup, but it could well come down to the Broncos D doing what it did last week, which is, okay, it concedes yards, but comes up big in the red zone, which it's done all year this year. This is the number one red zone D in the NFL. And then the thing that it hasn't done much of this year, but did last week, was generate those two big takeaways in the second half, those two interceptions off Jordan Love. Love, of course, had only 2 interceptions in the previous 8 games, and then the Broncos D got those two interceptions in the second half. So the success equation for the Broncos D, it's not necessarily going to be, I think, suffocating this Jaguars offense. It's going to be perhaps making the big plays, the big stops when it has to. And so wouldn't surprise me if you see a score very similar to the one that you saw last week. But that means the Broncos offense has to come up big, which it has recently, Joey. But the Jaguars defense since week 11, number 1 in the league in EPA per play allowed. The Jags defense is peaking too.
Yeah, the Jags defense number 1 in rush yards allowed to throughout the entire league, throughout the entire season, and number 2 in turnovers generated. So we were talking about the turnovers there that the Broncos forced last week, and that's not something that the Broncos have really done, extra. They haven't been towards the top of the league in turnovers generated. They've been great at getting sacks and stopping the ball in the red zone, but turnovers are something that the Broncos have not been doing at the highest level. The Jaguars, on the other hand, have been forcing turnovers up there with the Bears. The Bears have 30 on the season, and the Jags have 26. Is that something that you think is going to affect the Broncos' game plan? Obviously, with the rushing yards allowed per game and the turnovers generated, how do you think that's going to affect this Broncos game plan?
Well, I don't think it will, because you don't want to change. I don't think you want to really change the DNA of what the Broncos do. And it was something I was chatting with Mike McGlinchey a little bit about on Thursday in the locker room, that one of the things that distinguishes this team and distinguishes Bo Nix as far as how he's gotten confidence and gotten comfortable is that he feels the latitude to kind of go back there and kind of grip it and rip it almost. And one thing that Sean Payton empowers his players to do is to kind of feel that confidence to be aggressive and take advantage of the opportunities that are there and take some shots and take some chances. And to know that when they come back to the sideline, they're not necessarily going to get jumped on for taking those chances, that they're in the calculus of what the Broncos do. They do believe in acceptable risk. So part of that against the Jaguars defense, that it is aggressive against the ball. It has been the best in the AFC at generating takeaways. You are going to have to take some chances against this D, but you can't change the Broncos. You can't change the Broncos mindset. Now, things you can do, at least I don't think you change Bo Nix's mindset. Now, things you can do is you can tell everybody, protect the football a little bit better. RJ Harvey, of course, had his first fumble as a pro last week, so he has not been fumble prone, but did lose the ball last week. So maybe you use last week's fumble for him as a reminder. Okay, hey, when you get into a thicket of defenders, make sure you cover that thing. Make sure you got two arms over it when you get into a pile of guys, because these guys are going to try to knock it out, try to strip it out on you. They're very aggressive that way. So that's the one thing you're mindful of. But I think with Bo Nix, I don't think you tell him to reel back and play constrained in this game just because the Jaguars are one of the league's better teams at generating takeaways. I don't think you want to change what is working for Bo Nix and what has allowed him to kind of turn the corner and play the best football of his young career in the last few weeks. I mentioned, how well Trevor Lawrence is playing, but Bo Nix since week 11, 5th in the league in success rate, 6th in the league in EPA per play, 10th in the league in passer rating over the last 5 weeks. So he's got a good thing going. I don't think you want to appreciably change that just because of who you're facing here.
But don't you think a change might be, in the cards? I mean, you look at the teams that he's played in the past couple of weeks. They've been solid, opponents. They've been defensively all right teams. The Packers are a great defensive team. Actually, I don't know if I'll say great, but they're a good defensive team. I won't compare them to the Jaguars though, because I think the Jaguars are better. You don't think that that'll limit the amount of downfield passes that Bo's, asked to throw in this game? There's a bigger possibility of a turnover up against the Jaguars if you throw it 20 yards deep than there was against the Packers, or there was against a team like the Chiefs. There's a bigger chance for a turnover, and in a game like this, a turnover could be a game-changing decision. It could entirely change the outcome of the final score of this game. Don't you think that might change a little bit? Or you think they're just going to rock with this?
I think you rock with it, and I think also whether you throw downfield, it's not a function of them generating takeaways. It's a function of what their coverage is. You didn't throw downfield against the Raiders because of the coverages you see from a typical Pete Carroll defense. They're going to give you the underneath stuff, and so you take that. So every defense, even one that generates a lot of takeaways, has a point where you can attack it. You can't take away everything. I mean, as good as Vic Fangio's defenses have been, you can attack them in certain ways. For example, I mean, you could attack the old Tampa 2 defenses in certain ways. So you can. There are going to be chances. You just have to find the right ones, and you have to take them. And don't be afraid to take them. The worst thing you can do is play scared against a team like this. The Broncos offense is one of the reasons it's doing so well is that it's started to play with confidence, and it's been and Bo Nix has played with confidence, and not a moment too soon, because that you've needed that confidence with the running game struggling ever since J.K. Dobbins has gone down, because you have the three running backs, R.J. Harvey, Jaleel McLaughlin, Tyler Bidet combined. They're averaging below 3.5 yards per carry since J.K. Dobbins went on injured reserve. You've needed Bo Nix to go out there and push things just a little bit more over those last 5 games. I don't think it's advisable to change that, or the last 5 weeks, I should say. I don't think it's advisable to change that. I think you do look at what they're giving you coverage wise, and then you take advantage of the shots when they're there. I don't think it necessarily means you don't go deep, because there'll be some one-on-one opportunities there. And look, you've got Cortland Sutton, who's still a great deep ball pass catcher and still can go up and win those one-on-ones. That's the kind of risk that you take against this coverage.
I like it. I mean, I don't want to see any changes. It's been succeeding. What the Broncos have been doing has obviously been working. They're on an incredible win streak, and they have yet to lose at home since last October. So any changes that could come, I don't think they're going to be as massive. I'm just, of course, here to play devil's advocate. But before we finish this up, what do you think your keys to the game are this week? What are the things that will lead to success for the Broncos?
Well, I mentioned it earlier in terms of the D, and I talked about about coming up big in the red zone, and this is another game where I think it's going to be making those stops in high leverage situations and generating a takeaway or two. Like this is where I think the comparisons of this D to the no-fly zone defense of 2015, I think they're a little bit lazy. It's just because, hey, that's what people around here know. They know that Broncos D from a decade ago, and people are very fond of it. But this isn't a defense that is like that. It's built in a different way. It reaches its success, especially against top-level offenses, in a different way. It'll give up some yards, but it'll make those stops in the compressed area of the field in the red zone. That's where you see the coverage really get to where it plasters guys, and that's where you see the rush and coverage combination really jump out. So hey, if it looks like last week where the Jaguars get some momentum at the middle of the field and get into the red zone, don't panic. If they settle for field goals on a couple of early drives, kind of like the Packers did last week, hey, that's winning for the Broncos. That means you just kind of have to be patient and trust that you're going to see the Broncos get some momentum. So I'd say don't be surprised if the game kind of takes on a similar tone to last week, where you see the Jags get some early momentum, get some lengthy drives, but if the Broncos get those stops or get a takeaway, that's exactly what you want to see from them. So I think that's going to be a key to this game. And another key to this game, I think it's going to be spreading the ball around on the offensive side. And we saw that happen nicely last week. Maybe you won't see a 100-yard receiver in this game, but remember you saw Troy Franklin without Pat Bryant last week reemerge with a nice game. You're going to have Pat Bryant back this week. Maybe this is the type of game where, to keep the Jaguars off balance, maybe this is where you see, Cortland Sutton with 70 and Pat Bryant with 70 yards and Pat Bryant with 60 yards. I'd like to see them get Evan Engram against his old team uncorked a little bit more in this game than he has. You have to go back to the Washington game for the last big game that he has. Maybe he's the secret weapon that sort of emerges and discombobulates the Jags a little bit. I know, he's not thinking about revenge. He has a lot of fond memories of Jacksonville, but he's definitely amped for this game to show his old teammates what he still has.
I like it. I like it a lot. I mean, I don't know how many more times I could say that Evan Ingram could be the secret weapon. It's happened once this season. I don't know how much more faith I have in him. All right, before we go, last one, I want to get your score prediction for the game. I want to hear yours, and then I'll give mine, and then we can wrap this up and get ready for this incredibly exciting weekend coming up.
Well, we've gotten used to close games around here, so last week was yet another one-score game. The Broncos are closing in, by the way, on a league record for games decided by 8 points or fewer. They're at, by the way, Joey, with another win, one more win by 8 or fewer points, they're going to match the league record set by the 2022 Vikings and the 2024 Chiefs. They will join those two teams with the most wins by 8 points or fewer.
And I don't know if that's a fun record to have. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if I like that record.
Yeah, it's stressful, but hey, the games have been fun. They've kept everybody tuned till the end.
Yep.
I'm going to make the prediction that they do match that league record this week, 30-27 Broncos.
I like that. I'm going 27-24 Broncos. Pretty close there. I like that a lot. I can't wait. I'll be back with you 2 Fridays from now. We're not having any shows next week until the Friday after Christmas. Is going to be a special show after the Chiefs game. We'll be back with you guys talking about that. Mace, always a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for joining the show. Have fun at the game on Sunday. I know you'll be there. Hopefully it's not as windy as it's been, yesterday or 2 days ago. And today it's going to be super windy. Hopefully that calms down a little bit on Sunday, but have a great time out there. Everybody else, thank you so much for joining. I'll see you guys next Friday. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and enjoy the long break if you're not working this next week. But until next Friday, y'all have a great rest of your day, a great week, and I will see you all later. Bye, y'all.